Let me tell you something no one dares to say out loud anymore. Women, real women, the ones who lead with strength and elegance, are not chasing money the way society wants you to believe. You see, we live in a world that's obsessed with numbers, bank accounts, luxury cars, designer labels. And while all of that can dazzle the eyes for a moment, it doesn't speak to the soul, a woman's heart, her spirit, her intuition. Those things crave far more than material shine. Let me tell you what women secretly crave, not just crave, but value more than money. 1. Safety, not security. Safety. There's a difference between a man who provides and a man who protects. She can make her own money. She can build her own empire. But when she lies down at night, when she lets her guard down, she wants to know, am I safe with you? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, can she trust you with her vulnerability without it being weaponized? That kind of safety is priceless. Money can't buy the way her soul exhales around a man who makes her feel like nothing outside those four walls can harm her. She doesn't want a man who just guards her body. She wants one who guards her heart. 2. Consistency over grand gestures. You want to impress her. Don't just show up when the spotlight's on. Show up when no one's watching. She values the text that says, "Did you get home safe?" more than the expensive dinner. Why? Because grand gestures are easy, but being consistent, that's rare. Consistency tells her, you're not here for the thrill. You're here for the truth. And when a man is consistent in his words, his actions, and his energy, he becomes irresistible, not because of what he gives her, but because of how he honors her. 3. Depth over dollars. A woman of depth is not turned on by a man who throws money around to buy attention. She's intrigued by the man who listens, who thinks before he speaks, who remembers the details, not because he has to, but because he cares. When she talks about her dreams, her fears, her childhood, her broken places, and you respond with presence and maturity, you just gave her something money never could, a place to emotionally breathe. Don't underestimate the power of being that space, a space where she can be soft yet seen. 4. Purpose over possessions. If you think your material success is the flex, think again. A woman will be drawn more to your purpose than your possessions. Why? Because purpose is direction, it's clarity, it's vision, and a woman wants to walk beside a man who knows where he's going. She doesn't want to be dragged into confusion, chaos, or constant indecision. She wants to feel like her presence amplifies your calling, not competes with it. When a man walks in purpose, even the way he stands changes. There's confidence, but no arrogance. There's direction, but no domination. And that's attractive in ways you can't measure with money. 5. Emotional intelligence. Let me make this crystal clear. Women do not expect perfection, but they crave awareness. The ability to recognize your own emotional triggers, to respond instead of react, to apologize when necessary without making it about your ego. That's power. You don't have to fix her. You don't have to always agree with her. But if you can sit in discomfort and still communicate with grace, that's when she feels safe enough to love fully. Because here's what many don't get. Women are emotional creatures by nature, but they only open that emotional realm to a man who proves he can handle it without judgment or control. 6. Respect over riches. Respect is the silent currency every woman truly values. Not just the respect you show her, but the respect you show yourself, your time, your boundaries, your vision. Does she see you keeping your word when no one's watching? Does she hear how you talk about other women when she's not the topic? Does she witness how you treat those who can do nothing for you? That's where the real attraction grows, in the unseen, in the unspoken, in the integrity behind the scenes. The truth is, the most evolved women are tired of being impressed by shallow things. They're not sitting around waiting for a wallet. They're observing, they're sensing. And they know the difference between temporary attention and long-term value. So if you really want to know what she desires more than money, It's the man behind the money, the energy he brings, the way he honors her without needing to possess her, the way he stands beside her, not in front of her, because deep down she doesn't want to be bought. She wants to be understood, and no price tag can replace that. Let's be honest. You've been giving people access to you like it's free admission to a theme park. No boundaries, no qualifications, no standards. And then you wonder why you feel drained, why you feel overlooked, why you feel disrespected. It's not because you're not enough. It's not because you need to do more. It's because you've been too available to people who haven't earned the right to be close to you. Let's say this loud and clear. Not everyone deserves access to you. And when I say access, I don't just mean physical presence. I'm talking about your mind, your energy, your emotions, your time, your vulnerability, your power. Every time you allow someone into your space who brings nothing but chaos, criticism, or entitlement, you are handing over pieces of yourself. And let's be real, you're not getting anything back but exhaustion and confusion. That's not connection, that's exploitation. You don't owe your time to everyone who asks for it. You don't owe your presence to people who only value you when it's convenient. You don't owe your compassion to people who continue to disrespect your boundaries. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to protect your peace like your life depends on it. Because guess what? It does. You can't grow if you keep surrounding yourself with people who shrink you. You can't heal if you keep letting in people who reopen your wounds. You can't move forward if you keep dragging along people who are perfectly comfortable standing still. Some of you are stuck, not because you're lazy or unmotivated, but because you're carrying too many people who were never meant to walk beside you. Think about how often you've made excuses for someone's behavior just because you know their heart. You keep saying things like they're just going through something, or they don't mean it like that. And meanwhile, they've hurt you repeatedly, but because you've given them access without consequence, they think they can keep getting away with it. And you're proving them right every time you pick up the phone, every time you respond to that late night message, every time you let them back in after they've shown you who they really are. This isn't about being mean. It's about being honest. It's about understanding that your life is too valuable to be handed over to people who don't appreciate it. Just because someone wants your attention doesn't mean they deserve your energy. Just because someone was part of your past doesn't mean they deserve to be in your future. Just because someone has a key doesn't mean they belong in the room. Access to you should be earned. It should be based on consistency, respect, mutual growth, and alignment. And if someone shows you through their actions that they don't respect your time, your values, your boundaries, or your presence, then the door needs to close, not with drama, not with a big announcement, just with a firm decision. I deserve better than this. Some of you are burning out because you're overinvesting in underwhelming relationships. You're pouring into people who leave you empty. You're showing up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. And the worst part, you keep doing it hoping they'll change, hoping they'll finally see your worth, hoping that if you just give a little more, love a little harder, sacrifice a little longer, they'll become the person you need. But let's get this clear. Your value doesn't increase because someone finally decides to treat you right. Your worth was never up for negotiation. The problem isn't that they don't see it. The problem is you keep trying to convince them. You're showing up as if you need to earn their love, when in reality, love is mutual or it's manipulation. Respect is shared or it's exploitation. And if you have to keep proving yourself to stay in someone's life, then you don't belong there. There's a version of you that's not tired all the time, a version of you that doesn't question whether you're too much or not enough. A version of you that wakes up with clarity instead of anxiety. But you will never meet that version as long as you keep allowing people who dim your light to sit at your table. Some people are not bad, they're just not meant for you. And when you confuse familiarity with loyalty, you stay stuck in places God's already called you out of. You can't elevate your life with people who are comfortable being stagnant. You can't keep giving VIP access to people who treat you like a backup plan. This is your life. This is your energy. This is your mental health. And at some point, you have to take responsibility for who gets access to it. You're not a victim of your relationships. You're a curator of your environment. And the people you allow in either help you thrive or keep you stuck in survival mode. There is no middle ground when it comes to peace. Either someone contributes to it or they contaminate it. Either someone lifts you up or they weigh you down. Either someone adds clarity or they bring confusion. And if it's the latter, then what are you doing? Why are you entertaining people who keep proving they don't deserve to be in your space? Let's talk about standards, not preferences. Standards, the baseline for how you expect to be treated. Some of you have dropped your standards so low that you're celebrating bare minimum effort. A text back becomes a sign of commitment. A few kind words after weeks of distance becomes a reason to stay. No, that's not love. That's desperation disguised as patience. When you raise your standards, you raise the frequency of your life, and that naturally eliminates people who are not on your level, but that requires courage. It requires you to be okay with being alone for a while. It requires you to stop settling for temporary attention in place of real connection. It requires you to stop believing that someone else's validation is the key to your worth. You don't need more people. You need the right people. People who challenge you to grow. People who celebrate your boundaries. People who respect your presence even when they don't need something from you. You need people who are emotionally mature enough to communicate, to be consistent, to love without manipulation. But those people will never find you if you keep entertaining what you've outgrown. Your healing deserves better company. Your growth deserves better support. Your future deserves better friends, and that starts with you. You set the tone, you decide who gets access, and the moment you stop giving your power away to people who can't handle it, you start reclaiming your life. So let this be your wake-up call. Not everyone deserves access to you. Your peace is too sacred. Your energy is too precious. Your time is too limited. Start acting like it. Start filtering your relationships through the lens of alignment. Stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do they nourish me? Do they respect me? Do they match the energy I bring? Because if the answer is no, then it's time to change the locks. You've done enough explaining. Enough forgiving without correction. Enough hoping without boundaries. Now it's time to protect your space like the sanctuary it is. Not everyone should get in. Not everyone should stay. And that's not cruelty. That's clarity. That's power. That's self-respect. Because when you start treating your access like it's a privilege, not a guarantee, everything shifts. The right people rise. The wrong people fall away. And you finally start living like someone who knows exactly what she's worth. Not because anyone told you, but because you decided it for yourself. Let's get something straight. Peace isn't some fluffy, good concept you stumble into by accident. Peace is a deliberate choice. A boundary, a bold line you draw when you finally realize your mental health, your emotional clarity, your soul's well-being matters more than pleasing everyone around you. And one of the most powerful ways you claim that peace, you say no, you say it loud, you say it clear, and most importantly, you say it without guilt. Here's the thing, saying no is not about shutting people out, it's about letting yourself in, it's about honoring your needs, protecting your energy, and refusing to sacrifice your sanity on the altar of someone else's comfort. Too many of us are trained to believe that no is a bad word, that it makes us selfish, that it makes us rude, that it makes us cold or uncaring. But you know what's truly selfish: expecting someone to always say yes when it costs them their peace. You know what's rude: believing your comfort is more important than their emotional bandwidth. And you know what's cold: manipulating someone into a yes when they clearly want to say no. Peace begins the moment you realize you do not owe anyone your constant accessibility, your blind agreement, or your immediate response. You owe yourself protection, you owe yourself clarity, you owe yourself alignment, and every time you say yes to something that drains you, something you don't want to do, something that's not aligned with who you are becoming, you're saying no to your peace. You're saying no to your growth. You're saying no to the person you're working so damn hard to become. And let's be honest, it's not the no that's hard. It's the guilt that follows, that voice that whispers you're disappointing them. They're going to think you don't care. They're going to be mad. But let's flip that for a second. Why aren't you worried about disappointing yourself? Why isn't your own peace, your own boundaries, your own truth the first priority? Why is everyone else's comfort so sacred, but your own nervous system is constantly being thrown under the bus? Let me ask you, how many times have you said yes, then regretted it the moment you walked away? How many times have you agreed to something just to keep the peace, while starting a war inside yourself? How many times have you cancelled on your own goals, your own plans, your own rest just to accommodate someone else's lack of planning or lack of respect? And the worst part, most of those people didn't even notice your sacrifice. Or if they did, they came to expect it. And that's where it becomes dangerous, because what you allow becomes what's normal. What you tolerate becomes what you teach. So if you're constantly saying yes just to avoid conflict, just to keep someone from being upset, just to maintain an image, guess what? You're telling the world that your boundaries are flexible, that your peace is negotiable, that your worth is up for debate. And that's a dangerous message to send, because there will always be people who benefit from your lack of boundaries. There will always be people who love the version of you that bends, that breaks, that burns out just to keep the peace. But your job isn't to keep people comfortable. Your job is to live in truth, and sometimes truth sounds like no. Not this time, not today, not anymore. Here's a radical idea. What if saying no was actually an act of kindness? What if it was you choosing honesty over resentment? What if it was you protecting your energy so that when you say yes, you actually mean it? Because that's the truth. When everything is a yes, nothing is special. When everyone has access, your value gets diluted. And when you say yes out of guilt, you're not serving, you're sacrificing. And service rooted in guilt isn't noble, it's toxic. It's a breeding ground for bitterness, frustration, and burnout. Peace comes when you learn how to pause, when you stop reacting and start responding. When someone asks something of you, and instead of automatically agreeing, you check in with yourself first. Do I actually want to do this? Do I have the energy to do this? Is this aligned with where I'm headed? If the answer is no, then honor that, trust that, speak that, because every time you override your own intuition just to avoid someone else's disappointment, you abandon yourself. And you've done that enough, haven't you? You've said yes while your body screamed no. You've smiled through events you didn't want to be at. You've answered calls when you needed silence. You've extended kindness to people who showed up late, took too much and gave too little. You've bitten your tongue so often it's become a reflex. And I get it, conflict is uncomfortable. Disappointing people is hard. But do you know what's harder? Living a life that doesn't feel like yours. Saying yes until you don't even recognize what you want anymore. Carrying the weight of other people's expectations like it's your job. It's not your job. Your job is to live your truth, to create a life that feels good, not just looks good. To build relationships based on mutual respect, not obligation. To wake up with a clear head and a peaceful heart, not resentment buried under politeness. And that starts with no. No to what doesn't serve you. No to what drains you. No to what feels off, misaligned, forced, or fake. No to invitations that feel like chores. No to conversations that feel like auditions. No to relationships that feel like you're constantly proving your worth. When you say no clearly and confidently, without the weight of guilt dragging behind you, you're telling yourself, I matter, my peace matters, my time matters, my needs matter. You're telling yourself that it's okay to take up space, to choose yourself, to protect your energy like the sacred thing it is. And let's be real, saying no without guilt is a practice. It's not a switch you flip once and suddenly you're immune to people's reactions. There will be discomfort. People might get upset. They might call you selfish, cold, distant, but remember this. Someone else's inability to respect your boundary is not your responsibility to manage. Your job is not to control how people react. Your job is to be in integrity with yourself. Think of how much lighter your life would feel if you stopped over-explaining, if you stopped defending your decisions to people who don't live your life, if you stopped asking for permission to rest, to recharge, to realign. Think of how much more peaceful your days would be if you trusted yourself enough to say, this doesn't work for me, and left it at that. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are not here to stretch yourself thin just to be seen as nice, kind, or cooperative. You are not here to perform. You are here to live, to thrive, to create, to contribute from a place of fullness, not depletion. And that means sometimes you have to disappoint others to stay loyal to yourself. That's not betrayal. That's maturity. That's emotional intelligence. That's self-respect. So the next time you feel that twinge of guilt when you're about to say no, pause and ask yourself, am I saying yes to them just because I'm afraid of how they'll react? Am I shrinking so they can stay comfortable? Am I betraying my peace just to avoid their disappointment? If the answer is yes, then let that no rise up in you like a declaration. Let it be firm, let it be clear, let it be unapologetic, because every no spoken in truth becomes a yes to something greater. A yes to alignment, a yes to authenticity, a yes to peace. Peace is not passive, it's not weak, it's not quiet. Peace is powerful, it's fierce, it's loud in its own calm, grounded way, and it starts the moment you realize you don't need to be liked by everyone. You don't need to be chosen by everyone. You just need to stop abandoning yourself. You just need to stop saying yes when everything in your soul says no. That's the moment your peace begins. That's the moment you take your power back. That's the moment you stop living for applause and start living for alignment. And that, right there, is a life worth building, one no at a time. Let's get this straight. Anything that drains your peace is way too expensive. I don't care how good it looks on the outside. I don't care what it promises. I don't care who tells you to keep holding on. If it's costing you your inner calm, your ability to breathe easy, to think clearly, to sleep at night, to wake up feeling okay in your own skin, it's already costing you more than it's worth. And yet, so many of us stay. We stay in jobs that make us dread Monday morning. We stay in relationships that leave us anxious, depleted, questioning our worth. We stay around people who walk into a room and immediately change the air in it, in the worst way. And we do it all while trying to convince ourselves that peace is optional, that chaos is normal, that stress is just the cost of being successful, loved, or needed. But that's a lie. Peace is not optional. It's foundational. It's the bedrock of every healthy decision you're ever going to make. And the second you give it up for someone or something that constantly pulls you into drama, urgency, or emotional instability, you've already lost. You've already paid too much, because once your peace is gone, so is your clarity, so is your creativity, so is your joy, your sense of control, your power. That internal calm you trade for a toxic situation. That's the very thing you need in order to thrive. And no, this isn't about avoiding hard things. This isn't about hiding from discomfort or pretending everything should always be easy. Peace isn't the absence of challenge, it's the presence of alignment. It's the confidence that even when life is hard, you're still rooted in the right thing. But when you're out of alignment, when you're in the wrong job, the wrong relationship, the wrong environment, that's when peace gets replaced by survival mode. That's when every day feels like a battle. That's when you start forgetting who you are, you become reactive. You're constantly walking on eggshells. You start shrinking to fit into spaces that aren't built for your growth. You find yourself analyzing every word, every silence, every mood shift from someone who should have been your support system, but turned out to be your storm. And you keep telling yourself it's temporary. You keep saying it's going to get better. You keep making excuses for the very thing that's breaking you. But deep down, you know that peace isn't something you should have to fight for every single day. You know that love doesn't come with confusion, that success shouldn't feel like a prison, that your dreams shouldn't be tied to anxiety, burnout, or a constant state of unease. If it costs you your mental health, your ability to trust yourself, your ability to sleep through the night, then it's too damn expensive, and you've got to stop letting the fear of starting over keep you stuck. You've got to stop negotiating with your nervous system. You've got to stop labeling emotional abuse as just a rough patch or chronic stress as part of adulthood. That's not strength, that's self-abandonment. And you don't need to live like that anymore. You can't afford to, because every moment you spend in a situation that robs you of peace is a moment you'll never get back. You're not here to just exist in a constant loop of high, functioning misery. You're not here to smile through pain, to fake fine, to perform your way through chaos. You're here to be free, to live full, to find the kind of stillness that doesn't mean the world is quiet. It means you are. And to find that, you have to be willing to let some things go. You have to be willing to walk away from what's loud but empty. You have to stop holding on just because you're afraid of the unknown. Because here's the truth. What you're afraid of losing might be the very thing that's blocking your blessing. The longer you stay in spaces that don't honor your peace, the longer you delay the life that does. And you deserve that life. You deserve relationships where communication is honest, not manipulative. You deserve work that challenges you but doesn't destroy you. You deserve to come home to yourself and not feel like a stranger in your own mind. But you'll never get that if you keep settling for what's familiar instead of what's healthy. Familiarity is not peace. Just because you've learned how to function in chaos doesn't mean it's where you belong. Just because you've survived something doesn't mean you should stay in it. Peace isn't something you find when everything around you changes. It's something you create when you decide you're not willing to pay the price of losing yourself anymore. It starts with a choice, a decision to stop negotiating your worth, to stop saying yes to things that make your soul say no, to stop confusing tension for passion, instability for excitement, struggle for love. And let's talk about love for a second. Real love, real connection does not make you feel anxious 90% of the time. It does not require you to constantly prove yourself, to chase validation, to beg for emotional safety. If you have to sacrifice your peace to earn someone's affection, it's not love, it's control, it's fear, it's manipulation wrapped in sweet words and hot apologies, and the more you reward that, the more you lose sight of the kind of calm, mutual, grounded love you actually deserve. Same goes for your goals. Ambition is beautiful, drive is powerful, but if your success is built on burnout, if every win costs you another piece of your well-being, if climbing the ladder means destroying your body, your relationships, your sanity, then that's not a dream. That's a trap. A dream that robs you of joy isn't a dream. It's a distraction, one you keep chasing because you think that once you get there, Peace will be waiting for you, but peace doesn't live at the finish line. It lives in the process. It lives in your decisions. It lives in your boundaries, your daily habits, your sense of purpose. You've got to stop glamorizing chaos. You've got to stop feeding dysfunction because you're scared of being alone. Peace might be quiet, but it's not boring, it's life giving, and once you taste it, really taste it, you won't want to go back to anything that disrupts it. You'll start choosing silence over shouting, simplicity over drama, rest over racing. You'll start noticing who brings calm into the room and who brings chaos, and you'll adjust your circle accordingly. You'll stop arguing just to be heard and start walking away because your inner peace is more important than being right. You'll learn that sometimes the most powerful move is not to clap back, not to fix it, not to convince them. It's to protect your peace and keep moving forward. And no, not everyone will like this version of you. The one who sets boundaries, the one who says no, the one who protects their energy like it's sacred, but that's okay, because you're not responsible for other people's comfort. You're responsible for your own healing, your own joy, your own alignment, and that means you have permission to choose peace, even when it makes other people uncomfortable. You have permission to say, "This doesn't feel right," and walk away. You have permission to let go of people, places, and plans that looked good on paper, but made you feel small in your soul. That's not failure, that's freedom. So I'll say it again, louder this time. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. I don't care how long you've been invested. I don't care how much potential you see. I don't care what you've sacrificed to get here. If staying means slowly disconnecting from your own heart, it's time to go. Peace is not a luxury, it's a lifeline, and you are allowed, more than allowed, to build a life that doesn't feel like survival. You are allowed to choose calm, to choose clarity, to choose you,